Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. This is Travis Semulin Sowers, and we're going to talk some about the key archetypes and cards in Kaldheim Draft, and go through and talk about this. If you've been watching my YouTube series in order, the last draft you saw was me getting absolutely wrecked in Kaldheim Draft, having no idea why, and being pretty frustrated by the end of the video. That led me to a couple situations. So I think before we dive into this, I want to explain kind of what happened, where I got, and how I fixed it. So after that video, I think we've done 4 drafts. I believe we've had 3 3-0s and 1 2-1. I could be wrong about that, but I've been very happy with my results after doing a re-review. And I didn't record the re-review because I think I can sum it up a lot better here than I can if you go back and watch all of that. But let's start with the history. I came back to playing Magic in Ikoria, and my plan at the time was I'm mostly a variety streamer. I'll just play Ikoria until I run out of gems, and then I'll go back to streaming something else. Maybe I can play Underlords again, or I'll stream some more Tarkov. The problem was I never lost. When I logged back into my account, I had 18,000 gems, and at the end of Ikoria, I had 80,000 gems. I really liked Ikoria. I figured out the format. I was doing very well. And I think what happened is I got a little too cocky. I got a little too full of myself and decided I was a golden god. I know that I am personally vulnerable to thinking that I am smarter than I am and better than I am. This is like I sometimes struggle with ego problems. Those of you who have watched me for a long time may find that hard to believe. There is a sim god emote. So yeah, the guilty is charged. So I think what happened is I thought because I intuitively got Ikoria and was really able to make that gem printer go burr, that I'd just be able to do that in all of the formats now, and I didn't really have to sit down and do the work. And what that led to was me losing gems slowly over Zendikar Rising and never really breaking the format or understanding it. And I recognized here as Kaldheim's coming out that I like the format. I'm enjoying the format, but I'm also bad at it. And I can't have that happen if I want to continue to stream Magic. Like, it's not feasible for me to be spending $100 on gems so that I can draft for a month with the channel the size that it's at, because, like, that's not going to work, yo. I like living in a house and eating food. So, like, you have to kind of weigh those things, and then you start to get some thoughts here. So I decided to go back. I spent about 2 hours, and here's what we came up with. I'm going to walk you through it. So what I've done is establish the 21 archetypes that are in this format. But don't worry, there's not actually that many. It just seems like there are. First up, what are the colors looking to do without snow mana? Forget that snow's in the format, it's not there. What are these colors looking to do? Blue-red is looking to do giant things. They've got giant tribal, they've got good card draw, they've got removal. That's a deck. That's a good deck. You've got card draw, you've got removal, you've got big creatures. What's not to like? Red-green, what are they looking to do? They're looking to play big creatures and fight. So there's a ton of different fight spells. One of them at common, the Hunt the Wake variant. There's also 2 uncommon ones. No, because we're not taking questions at this time, Exploding Things. We're going to go through this. So red-green is looking to play big stuff and fight. That's absolutely fine too. The format's mostly a bunch of creatures around the 3/3 to 4/4 size, so you can usually get bigger than your opponent and fight stuff. White-black is looking to do double spells early and then win in the late game with flyers. And this is the first time we get to one that's not okay, because a lot of the double spell payoffs, you have to have them early and then immediately double spell, or you're playing a bad card. So we've got the 2-mana 2/2 that makes a flying token if you double spell. That's amazing if you play it on turn 2, and it's terrible if you top deck it later. We've also got the 2-mana 1/1 that gets +2/+2 counters and menace until end of turn if you double spell. That's amazing if you play it on turn 2 and then immediately follow it up with 2 spells, and terrible if you don't. If you top deck that later, you're just dying. So this is an archetype that I'm actually not interested in playing, because it's very draw dependent. And I don't think this is a format that revolves around that in the same way that you could make a deck like that in Zendikar Rising. Now, I'm not saying that the archetype's unplayable, just that this is one that I'd like to avoid. because it's draw dependent. If I don't draw my cards in the right order, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's the case with some of the other decks too. But let's take a minute. We've talked about blue red and red green being one that I like, and white black being one that I don't. Let's compare Immersturm Raider to, I can't even remember the card's name, the 1/1 that gets counters when you double spell. If you top deck an Immersturm Raider late game in your blue red or red green deck, you can now cash a land that you've been sitting on in for another card. Whereas if you top deck that 2-mana 1/1, you really can't do anything with it. Thank you, it's Bloodsky Berserker. If you top deck that Bloodsky Berserker, it's just not doing anything. It's not that you can't get punished by drawing your cards in the wrong order in any deck. It's that these cards double punish you, right? Because at least the Immersturm Raider does something late game. You're mostly putting it in the deck so that you can block your opponent's 3/2s, right? That's why a blue-red Giants deck is going to put that card in it. You got to play a couple 2-drops. Fine, play a couple 2-drops. But at least if I top deck them later, I can do something with it. Whereas all of these payoff uncommons, I have to draw the cards in the right order or they're actively bad. Does that make sense so far? And I do see that Stream Raiders is up. We'll do that, but I want to go through this, especially since we're recording it for YouTube. Once we get to white-green, we're looking at a strategy that wants to go a little more wide. There's a lot of things that you can do in white and green that are making multiple creatures per turn, and this is almost a better spot for that 2/2 that makes flying tokens than the white-black deck is, because it's looking to go wide and make those tokens and really spread out. So uncommons that would go in this are things like Maya. You're still getting very good removal in white and green. The Uncommon Saga is just a really good removal spell here. I'm very happy to play white-green go wide. Green-black has a big issue in that it is a tribal elf deck. Like, that's really what it's trying to do, is like set up this value chain where you're drawing a lot of elves, and it really depends on having the right uncommons to make it work, the 3/2 with Menace, as well as having enough elves in the deck, and that's very hard to put together. So green-black is really a color pair I'm not looking to play. There's just better things I can do with green than pair it with black. Yeah, Herald's the one. So like with that uncommon, all of a sudden maybe we can do this. Yeah, and you've got medium creatures if you don't have elves and changelings, and other decks want the changelings, and the good elves the other decks want too. So green-black is really something I'm not that interested in playing. Like, we played a Skimfar Shadow Sage in our red-black Berserker deck and won games with it. Like, you're not going to get that card late for your elf deck. If you do, then you've got it, like, I'm not saying I want draft elves, like that I'll never draft elves. I'm saying it's unlikely that I will, because my payoffs, because of the way tribal things work in this set, other people are also interested in them. And there's an even bigger problem that we're going to get to in a minute. Next up is white-red. This is basically like playing small creatures that are either tokens or doing the double spell stuff and then augmenting them somehow. I've played the rare Elf Creator and lost. The card's not great. That's not a reason to be going into elves. That's a reason to put some changelings in your green deck. Like, I know what you're thinking, but it doesn't work out like you think it does. Anyway, back to white-red. This strategy is to basically make a flying token, play a 1/2 first strike hawk, and then just put as much junk on it as you can and see if your opponent can deal with it. There's also pieces in the format that allow you to not get entirely blown out when they kill your one creature, and you can pants up something else. This is not a bad strategy. It's not my favorite one, because it is still susceptible to blowouts, right? Like, if you've got the Boros 2-drop that can let you, it pumps your tokens that are equipped, like, it can start to work with some of these things, but it really hinges on Dwarven Hammers from what I've found. Yeah, Cole the Forge Master, as well as the Hawks. And I don't want to be picking the Hawks early. Like, this is something that, like, if I see a Hawk wheel and I've already picked up a Cole, all of a sudden I'm interested in advancing this strategy. And the Raptor's the Hawk. There you go. Blue-white is flyers and foretelling, seems to be their base strategy. The only problem with that is that it's kind of bad. Like, Even their uncommon payoff here, the Owl, is a Windrake with upside that draws you cards when you foretell. But one of the better foretell cards you can get in blue is Glimpse the Multiverse. Like, you don't need to draw more cards when you play Glimpse the Multiverse. So your payoff card's kind of bad. You end up not getting access to all the flyers because all the other decks want them too. The only advantage you have in blue-white is if a Vega gets opened at the table, you're probably going to get it because nobody else wants it. Yeah, I think I skipped Black-Red Berserkers, but we're gonna save that one for last. I'm actually going to move it on the chart because there's an important reason to talk about Black-Red last. I can't move it because I'm bad, but I'll remember and go back to it. So that means I don't want to be playing blue-white. Green-blue is Changelings. It is incredibly easy to splash in green, which means literally everyone's tribal payoff is something that you'll probably take because you have a bunch of Changelings. Very happy to be in green-blue. Blue-black is looking to grind you and get incremental advantage and slight card advantage over time with some kind of bad reanimation plans. You're not really able to reanimate things, just draw things back. So you kind of are trying to get into this loop where you're discarding cards. You're looking to use things like strategic planning to get stuff into your graveyard to enable your removal spells, like the Way Down. And then after you've done that, you're looking to buy back those cards with Erase the Draugr and then do something with them after that. I'm not even sure what this deck is trying to go for. It looks like a set that was supposed to have a really good uncommon reanimate spell, and then they just didn't have room for it and cut it. Because the reanimate spell of put something from the graveyard onto the battlefield, if it's an elf, get 2 tokens, it's too many hoops to jump through. So that leaves me not wanting to play blue-black. And then black-red is the key one. Notice the decks I've said that I'm not interested in. I'm not interested in white-black. I'm not interested in green-black. I'm not interested in blue-black. And I'm not interested in blue-white. What does that mean? There's really only one deck that I'm looking to play black spells in. And again, you can play the other ones. It's okay. I'm not saying that these decks are always bad and you should never draft them. I'm saying if we're going to look at this format and say, what decks do I want to be in, that these are things we should be thinking about. And the only deck I want to play that has black in it is red-black, which is basically Berserker Tribal with removal. You can get some of the tribal payoffs from other decks. We've already mentioned Sigmar Shadow Sage is okay in this deck, because if you can get your opponent to 5 and then top deck it, guess what? They're dead. You just built your own Lava Axe. If you ever need to block, it's pretty good at that, and it's a flexible card. So where does this ranking come in and why should we talk about it? And we're going to go through the other ones and talk about them more. It's again, not that I'm saying you should always force a particular deck or that you should never draft a particular deck. It comes in when we're talking about first picks. The reason that first picks are so important and something that people often focus on is because they're likely to be the most powerful cards that you select, right? So what I want to do is maximize my chances to play my most powerful picks. If I'm given the option, knowing that black is relatively bad and it doesn't pair up with the other colors well, I don't want to first pick a black card if I have another option. And as we get through the end of the list, you'll start to see where this becomes more and more important and why, if you've been watching my drafts, I've been leaning towards green cards initially if the power level is close. So let's quickly go through and look at what snow does to all of these archetypes once we add snow into the mix. What does snow change? Chat, I'll let you take this. What does snow change with blue-red? Because as I looked through, it actually didn't change anything. It enables some key uncommons, and it opens up a few commons, but nothing that you're actually that interested in. If you happen to get an Avalanche Caller or the Snowy Manipulator, sure, grab some Snowlands. But if you don't have those, you don't need it. Red-green, it opens up a little bit of the archetype. Like you can actually ramp if you can get the 2-mana elf that untaps Snowlands. And it opens up the Ice Troll, Zavala, as well as some green uncommons. But it's not really that it matters for this archetype. It's just like if you have the green uncommons that trigger it, by all means take them. White-black with snow changes basically nothing. White has no snow cards that matter, and neither does black. But Hellstorm Valkyrie, Travis, that's not actually a black card. And I'll get to that in a minute. And the zombie that gets Menace, who cares? It's not very good. Green-black with snow, not very much. It unlocks the Ice Troll. You can ramp, but it's really not changing anything there. And Green-black's whole plan was we're going to do elves. The elves don't really care about the snow. Same with Black-red. It doesn't really change anything. It can upgrade your shock into a lightning bolt, which, while true, also doesn't matter because you can't pick the snow lands high enough to get a density of them in the deck that you can actually do that. White-red doesn't care about snow at all. Blue-white really doesn't care about snow at all, again, unless you get the blue uncommons. Green-blue, all of a sudden, is all about the uncommons because we're changing from a changeling deck to a snow deck. And that really means that the snow lands, really only green-blue cares about them the most out of this color pair because you're probably getting into green-blue with some good snow payoffs, picking up some changelings, and then going for the lands. And blue-black, it, again, enables some uncommons, like maybe you get Narfi or whatever. But if you don't have it, your blue-black deck just doesn't need snow. The last deck we have to talk about, which I think finally leads and will tie this all together and make it make sense, is the 5-color/snow deck. The deck doesn't have to be snow, but it can be 5-color. And there are infinite ways to fix yourself. If you have Glittering Frost, you don't even really need the snow lands to take a few of the snow payoffs, because the Frost, if you have 2 of those, will turn on most of your snow cards. Obviously pick up more if you can, but you don't have to have 12 snow lands or 8 snow lands. We had a 3-0 with a deck that was looking to do some snow stuff. It had 4 snow lands and 2 Glittering Frosts. That was plenty. But you can also fix yourself with Path of the World Tree, Savala if you're splashing it, Duels, the Snow Bear that can fetch you a land can help fix. Jaspara Sentinel isn't a great way to do it, but I've done it. And Horizon Seeker is another not great way to do it, but it can get the job done. The fact that there's people at a table looking to draft 5-color shenanigans means that you're not going to get the rares and uncommons that go in any of these other decks. Sure, you can even use Replicating Ring. It's not a great way to do it, but that works too. There's just infinite ways to splash. That one you don't have to be green for. So really when you're talking about the 5-color green deck, it's not quite in the list. But what that gets me to is a lot of these other decks that we were talking about that need something specific to be able to function, they're never going to get past it if it can be used in a 5-color deck. So that kind of brings me to, if I open a pack and I'm looking to start drafting, if I can pick a green card, I'd much rather pick a green card because that could lead me into playing everything. Whereas if I pick a black card, it's probably only going to lead me towards playing black-red. So it's all about how likely am I to be able to play my first pick. And again, if green-black elves, which is something I don't want to play, is exceptionally open, and I see Herald 5th pick, and then get past that into one of the 3/2 elves that makes another token, sure, we can start talking. I'll play it then. I'm just looking to, I'm not looking to first pick Herald. I need a reason to get into that. I hope that this makes some sense, because after I did this review and realized that I should basically be setting myself up to draft 5-color snow if possible, and then if it's not, getting into whatever's actually open, I've had a lot more success. And I found that the 5-color snow is open enough that it works. And when I say 5-color, it's not always 5-color. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. And like learning where to pick the lands, how to value the lands is important. But I've seen a lot of people giving advice, again, best of 3 draft, and saying things like just pick all of the snow lands initially and then pick the payoffs later. And I don't think that works. So that's kind of the strategy that I've used as we've gone through and started the drafting. This has been working very well for me. I'm going to end the video here, put this one up, and then we'll do a draft using this strategy. And you can watch it and see how that works. So thanks, YouTube. This was a short one, but don't worry, we'll be putting a draft up today too.